The world knew him as Julian Blackwood, a name that tasted like expensive whiskey and felt like cold, hard cash. He had built an empire from the ground up, a titan of industry whose every move was tracked, analyzed, and envied. And tonight, Julian Blackwood, the man who had everything, was about to claim the one thing he truly wanted: a wife. Her name was Serafina. To the world, she was a dream, a soft-spoken art curator with eyes that held the warmth of 1,000 sunsets. She had walked into his life like a gentle melody, soothing the sharp edges of his ruthless world. In 3 hours, she would walk down the aisle, draped in white, and vow to be his forever. But a vow is a promise, and Serafina's life was built on a foundation of beautiful, terrifying lies. Her real name wasn't Serafina, it was Sarah, and she wasn't an art curator from a wealthy family. She was a girl from the gritty side of town, running from a past that was clawing its way back to her. Right now, as the city buzzed with anticipation for the wedding of the year, Sarah was not admiring her dress. She was in a sterile downtown coffee shop, her hands trembling as she stared at the man sitting across from her. He was a ghost from her past, a man she had prayed she would never see again. His name was Marcus. "You look good, Sarah," Marcus said, his voice a low growl that sent a shiver of ice down her spine. "Playing princess suits you, but don't forget who you are. Don't forget the promises you made." She flinched at the name. "What do you want, Marcus?" He leaned forward, his smile thin and cruel. "The wedding is in 3 hours. They say the bride's family is supposed to give a gift. Well, I'm here to collect mine. For my silence. $1 million. Or Julian Blackwood gets a wedding present he'll never forget. The truth about his blushing bride." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. $1 million. It was a fortune. But to Julian, it was pocket change. She could ask him. But how? How could she explain where the money was going without shattering the perfect illusion she had so carefully built? She had a choice to make: confess and lose everything she had come to love, or make a deal with the devil and begin her marriage with the ultimate deception. The clock was ticking, and her fairy tale was about to become a nightmare. Sarah's mind raced, a whirlwind of panic and calculation. $1 million. The number echoed in the small, sterile space between her and Marcus. It was the price of her past, the cost of her future. Asking Julian was impossible. Their entire relationship, the beautiful, fragile world he had built around her, was based on the woman he thought she was. Serafina, the elegant art curator, not Sarah, the girl who ran. She took a slow, deliberate breath, forcing the tremor from her hands. She had survived Marcus before. She had escaped. She had built a new life from nothing. The girl he remembered was gone. In her place was a woman who had stood beside one of the most powerful men in the world, and she had learned a thing or two. "You've gotten sloppy, Marcus," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a cool, steady tone that surprised even herself. Marcus blinked, his smug expression faltering for a fraction of a second. "What did you just say to me?" "You think you're the only one with leverage?" she continued, leaning forward, her eyes locking onto his. "You were followed the moment you stepped within a mile of me. Julian has a man, Elias, whose only job is to ensure my safety. Right now, Elias is likely across the street, taking your picture, running your name through every database that exists. He probably already knows about your parole violation." It was a bluff, a desperate high-stakes gamble, but she delivered it with the unshakable confidence of a queen. Marcus's face tightened. The predator suddenly looked like prey. He glanced nervously toward the window, his bravado evaporating. "So here's a counteroffer," Sarah said, her voice like ice. "You're going to stand up, walk out of this coffee shop, and disappear. You will delete my number. You will forget my name. If I ever see you again, Julian won't just find out about my past. He'll find out about yours, and trust me, his justice is far more permanent than the law's." She stood up, her posture regal and unwavering. She placed a $20 bill on the table. "For the coffee," she said, "and for your silence." Without looking back, she walked out of the shop, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She didn't know if Elias was actually out there. She didn't know if her threat would hold. But as she stepped back into the sunlight, She knew one thing for sure. She was no longer just running. She was fighting back. Now she had a wedding to get to. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode. 2 hours later, she was Serafina again. She stood in a cloud of white silk and lace, the bridal suite smelling of lilies and expensive perfume. Her reflection in the mirror was a stranger, poised, elegant, serene, a perfect bride. But beneath the silk, her skin was cold. Her victory over Marcus felt hollow. She hadn't solved the problem, she had only delayed it. The lie was still there, a poisonous seed planted at the heart of her marriage. There was a soft knock on the door. Julian entered, his presence filling the room. He was already in his tuxedo, looking impossibly handsome, his eyes filled with a love so pure it was painful to behold. "It's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding," she whispered, a weak smile on her lips. He walked to her, ignoring tradition. He gently took her hands in his. "I don't believe in luck," he said, his voice a low, comforting rumble. "I believe in choices, and choosing you was the best one I've ever made." He looked at her, his gaze searching. "Is everything all right, Serafina? You seem distant." This was it, her chance, the moment to confess. The words clawed at her throat. "My name is Sarah. I'm a fraud. The woman you love doesn't exist." But the fear was a physical thing, a hand squeezing her heart, silencing her. She couldn't lose him. Not now. "Just pre-wedding jitters," she lied, the words tasting like ash. "I'm just overwhelmed by it all. By you." He smiled, the concern in his eyes melting away, replaced by the adoration she craved. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it. "I have a gift for you," he said, "something to calm your nerves." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside wasn't a diamond but a single, ornate, antique key. "This is the key to the Blackwood family vault," Julian explained. "It holds our history, our secrets. My father gave it to my mother on their wedding day. He told her, 'What's mine is yours, including my past.' I'm saying the same to you. There are no secrets between us, Serafina. Not anymore." The key felt like a block of ice in her palm. It was a symbol of total trust, of complete union. And it was a trust she had already betrayed. The ceremony was a blur, a sea of faces, the flash of cameras, the weight of Julian's hand in hers. Sarah, playing the part of Serafina, floated through it all, her smile perfectly in place, her responses crisp and clear. She said, "I do," and the crowd erupted. She was Mrs. Julian Blackwood. The lie was now sealed with a vow. The reception was held at a lavish ballroom overlooking the city. As Julian led her to the dance floor for their first dance, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she could do this. Maybe Marcus was gone for good. Maybe the past could finally be buried. But as they swayed to the music, a familiar face in the crowd caught her eye. It wasn't Marcus. It was someone far more dangerous. It was Julian's right-hand man, Elias, the man she had used in her bluff. And he was staring directly at her, his expression unreadable, holding a tablet. As he drew closer, he angled the screen just enough for her to see. On it was a crystal-clear security photo. It was from the coffee shop. It showed her, sitting across from Marcus. And below it was Marcus's entire criminal record. Elias leaned in close, his voice a barely audible whisper against the music, meant only for her. "Mr. Blackwood doesn't like secrets," he murmured, "and he pays me to make sure there are none. We need to talk. After the cake." The blood drained from her face. Her bluff hadn't just been a bluff. Elias really had been watching. And now the man sworn to protect Julian knew she was a liar. He held her future in the palm of his hand. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just getting started. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode. The next hour was the longest of her life. She smiled, she laughed. She cut the cake with a hand that felt disconnected from her body. All the while, she was acutely aware of Elias, watching her from the shadows. Finally, as Julian was pulled away by his business partners, Elias gave her a subtle nod toward the terrace. Her heart hammered. This was it. The night air was cool. The city lights twinkled below like a carpet of fallen stars. Elias stood by the railing, a silhouette against the skyline. Your performance was flawless, Elias said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. Both here and at the coffee shop. I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. Stop, Elias commanded, his tone sharp. Stop the act. I know who Marcus is. I know he tried to blackmail you, and I know Serafina is a ghost. The question is, what do I do with this information? Tears welled in her eyes, hot and shameful. The facade finally crumbled. I never meant to hurt him, she whispered, the words raw with desperation. I love him. The life I have with him. It's the only real thing I've ever had. Elias was silent for a long moment, studying her. Love is a powerful motivator, he said finally, but so is survival. Julian is a good man. He is also a man who despises deceit above all else. If I tell him, he will be destroyed, and he will destroy you in return. So what do you want? She asked, bracing herself for his demand. Money? Power? Elias shook his head. This isn't about me. It's about him. He cannot know. Not like this. It would break him. He paused, his gaze intense. So here is the arrangement. You will continue to be Serafina Blackwood. You will be the perfect wife. And in return, I will handle Marcus. Permanently. And this, he gestured between them, this conversation never happened. The information is my insurance. My leverage. To ensure you never ever put Julian in a vulnerable position again. It wasn't a reprieve. It was a prison. She would be living under the watchful eye of Elias, her secret held by a man she didn't know or trust. She would be his puppet, forever bound to the lie. Do we have a deal, Mrs. Blackwood? Elias asked, the name sounding like a curse. She looked back at the ballroom, at Julian, laughing with his friends, his face alight with the joy she had put there. To protect that joy, she would have to sacrifice her own freedom. Yes, she whispered into the night. We have a deal. Sarah walked back into the party, her smile back in place, but her eyes were hollow. She was no longer just a wife. She was a secret keeper, a player in a dangerous game she never wanted to join. Julian wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. There you are, he said, kissing her temple. I missed you. I'm here, she said, leaning her head on his shoulder, the weight of her deception pressing down on her. She had won. She was Mrs. Julian Blackwood. She had the wealth, the security, the man she loved. But as she looked out at the glittering city, she had never felt more trapped. Her marriage wasn't a fairy tale. It was a gilded cage, and she had just handed the key to the man in the shadows. Her vow to Julian was her first and most profound deception, and she knew with a chilling certainty that it would not be her last. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode.